We are starting. So I think they're screening.
Yeah, well, because she sees the panels, but.
Oh, she just needs to click
She just
OK.
okay. It just says it's being recorded. There we go.
It's there.
She declined.
She did.
Hi all. Sorry, took me a while to get on.
Hello.
So I guess, where are we?
Or to accept the panelists.
I can do a recap of the kind of selection process and the nominations, because it's to vote to affirm the nominations for the CoC board voting at the convening tomorrow.
Okay,
And I will defer to you as the chair to kick us off.
all righty. Welcome to the CoC Board Special Meeting. Was there an agenda for this meeting?
The presentation and the board nominee applications.
All righty. Have we established if we have quorum? Can we start with the roll call?
Yep, I am ready. Please say present if you are here. Patricia Sam,
Present.
Tamara Bauman,
Here.
Kenyatta Carol Hillman, Lise Castro,
Here.
Jaja Floyd, Marvin Cottrell,
Here.
Antoinette Lambert,
Here.
Dorsal Plants, Ruby Romero. See, Ruby is here. Ruby Romero. Martha Sassarosi,
Here.
Christina Sawicki, Christina Sawicki,
Did it unmute? There, good. I'm here.
thank you. Sherry Tillman,
I'm gonna try. Somebody mute me back, please. I can't do it myself.
Sherry Tillman. Okay, we have 8 members present. Quorum is met.
Okay, thank you. There's a question in the Q&A.
Thanks, Marvin. I was able to respond to those via chat. So this is the setting that we have for the zoom.gov. So Zoom for Government, it sets up board meetings as webinars. And we did look into the chat settings for the Zoom webinar presentations, and we were able to find any setting changes for that. And the Q&A function is a way for us to get chat and public comment in this setting. So there were no settings that we were able to change or manipulate in the platform that's designed for government boards to be using.
Okay,
Tamara has her hand up.
Oh, yeah, just that I'm seeing Ruby is in the chat. Looks like she might be having audio issues, but she is here.
I did mark her as present, thank you.
So I would like to say, Ruby, we can't hear you. Would you want to give us a run? You want to try speaking?
You should log out.
She's probably gonna restart her computer or something. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Marvin, shall I start with the review?
Yes, why don't you, review how we got to this.
All right,
Thank you.
I am going to share my screen. So wanting to go through, we are reviewing the nominations for CoC board seats, which will be voted on by the CoC membership at the convening. The CoC members are the ones who will vote to affirm each candidate. I will go over a bit about the selection committee onboarding, their tasks, and the selection process, as well as then the final recommendations from the selection committee. So this was a time-limited ad hoc committee to develop recommendations for seating new board members to the CoC board. This comprised of CoC board members and KCRHA staff, which includes folks with lived experience. The selection committee reviewed and scored all of the applications that were received by the posted deadline to identify candidates to move forward for a phone interview. The phone interview then took place between May 8th and May 16th. All of the recommendations were invited to the May 22nd meeting as well to view the process. All of the written applications were reviewed with identifying information redacted. So selection committee individuals did not know whose application they were reading in order to mitigate any potential implicit biases. This is a timeline of review. Applications were due on May 3rd. They were reviewed by the selection committee between May 6th and May 8th. Final candidates for a phone interview were identified by the selection committee on May 8th, and interviews occurred May 8th through May 16th. Final recommendations were determined by the selection committee on May 16th. And sent to the board via email on May 21st. This is a typo on my part. To prepare the selection committee, there was an overview of both the CoC and the CoC board, review of equity principles and an implicit bias training, and then a review of the charter for representation requirements for board members. The application questions were all rated on a ranking of 1 to 5. The rating included looking at understanding and interest regarding the CoC, skills and leadership, understanding systemic racism, theory of change, and then an overall application rating. There were a total of 50 points, and each applicant had to have 35 points to move forward for a phone interview. This is an overview of that. Let me make this big actually, so you can see it better. This is an overview of the rating. So each applicant was reviewed by 2 people, and then got an overall score. There was then an interview that was conducted via Zoom or Teams, and that looked at collaboration and teamwork, housing and homelessness knowledge, increasing equity, and then an overall rating. Again, those were on a 1 to 5 scale. And every interview was attended by 2 of the reviewers and scored. This was a total of 40 points, and to be recommended for a nomination to a board seat, the individual had to have 30 out of 40 points. To develop the recommendations, we looked at, or the selection committee was given the theory of change, reviewing the CoC charter and the selection process as outlined by the CoC charter, and application scores. Some of the pieces of the charter mandates is a maximum of 19 members, representation and reflecting of diversity of people experiencing homelessness, having expertise or skills in various areas, including implementing policies and practices, promoting racial and ethnic equity, provision of services for people experiencing homelessness with an emphasis on serving populations that are disproportionately represented, and connection or experience in physical and or behavioral healthcare or other intersecting systems, as well as geographic representation. The final nominations that the selection committee recommends for vote for the CoC membership include the following individuals: T.D. White, Elizabeth McKean Fitzgerald Maupin, Amaya Lenore, Victor Liu, Amy Thomas, Bella Irons, Jade Rice, Christina Sawicki, and Tamara Bauman, pardon me. So the ask is for the CoC board to affirm the nomination list, and these individuals will be presented to the CoC membership, and the membership will vote on each individual for a board seat.
Does that conclude?
That concludes what I have for you. That's
Well,
all.
thank you.
That's
I was waiting
my
for you
role.
to hand it back. I think it was a fine process for new board members. That's not necessarily where I'm going to next. Ruby, are you on the call yet?
Can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yes.
Jeez. Okay. Sorry about that. I was having some technical difficulties. I'm here.
All righty. So we've gotten a review of the selection committee and its process. The last time that we met, the board made 2 other nominations, and they yet have not been put forward. And I think that the board as a whole should hear what the processes are and then vote on how we're going to move forward. Would you like to start?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to talk to the board on public today and kind of, I guess, do I have to make a motion first or?
Well, we're reviewing how we got here today.
Yeah, cool.
The whole board, I think, wasn't present or may not have been sharing all of the emails back and forth. So so we can move forward with with an agreed upon process. Why don't you fill in and bring us today?
So I think there's a little bit of the confusion when it comes to how this process was taken on. I did want to just state that the charter has a few sections that I feel maybe were being not, I've been in, discussion with KCRHA staff too about this. So this is not anything that's not been talked about. But I do want to bring it to the attention that there should have been 3 board members on the selection committee in the first place. And so I don't know if that, invalidates the process or not. And then I also wanted to bring to the attention that when a board member steps down or decides to resign, which I'm really sad, I'm really sad about Galena stepping down, but I understand her concerns. And so I want to support her in any decision that she makes, or they make, they make. And I wanted to say that when a member resigns, per our charter, we are allowed to make an appointee for for that person's seat. So I just wanted to bring those two things to attention and see if we can move forward from there. There's a few other things too, but I'll start there.
Well, why don't we put everything out, because
Okay.
I would like to have folks move with full knowledge so their choices are made for themselves. Yeah.
So it's my understanding that when a nomination process happens, we are allowed to make nominations from the floor, is what it would be called in Robert's rules. And I understand that the charter doesn't quite dictate whether or not that would be permissible, but because it doesn't say it's not, just like as per the fact that we were allowed, the board members were allowed to reapply because there was nothing excluding the process of doing such. And the question arises when, about the application process and kind of how we honor those with lived experience and their voices. And, I did just read the Seattle Times, the other day, and we have some real experts in this room, and I don't, with historical references. So it's up to the CoC membership in the long run, but I'm curious how the board feels about the addition of 2 nominations, possibly of the 2 board members that we heard from at the last meeting. If you weren't there, we heard from Lee's if they wanted to maybe speak to their experience with the application process, but also if Marvin wanted to speak to his understanding of the application process. And last thing I would want to touch on is just that in the charter, section 2, letter D, I believe it is it does say that we are allowed to, hear the recommendations from work groups, and but that we don't have to adhere to what is being suggested to us. It is a recommendation, and with lived experience, we're allowed to kind of, decide if that's what we think as the CoC board is what would be effective. And I just want to also point to the theory of change, centering the voices of lived experience. So of course, I'm open to hear other people's, opinions and stuff, but I want to be clear when I say that this would just be nominations, and we're individually voting at the CoC convening tomorrow on individual people that have been nominated. So we still have 2 seats available, yada, yada, yada. I'm rambling at this point, but I feel like it's very important to get this out there. And so I'm just curious, when it comes to the idea that the selection committee didn't have the appropriate amount of board members on there, and that may or may not be, whoever's fault, but that's just the fact of the matter is. And the second part is just that as soon as the selection committee provides its nominations, which I believe, I don't know if it did, but once they send us the nominations, and that would absolve the work group. So I'm just curious as to why the selection committee was being referenced when we're the board that, and maybe we didn't get a quorum, but maybe we do have a quorum now, so we can actually pull the question to the table and ask if, we're open to the addition of, I believe I can only nominate 1 person at a time. So, I'm open to hear from a board member on that. I think we have to make the motion to get some discussion going, but.
Well, I just want to recap. My simple takeaway is for new members for the board, I think the process was addressed. For present board members or those ending their term, there was less clarity for how they may reach a second term. So and for everyone that was not at our last review before heading into this meeting, 1 board member was nominated. Another board member was also nominated, but it was the filling out of an application. There may have been some technical struggles with that. I guess the first question is we do have, we agreed on the selection process for new board members. And then we will hope, well, it'll be up to the board. If folks want to continue the discussion on how to, I would just generally say old board members or board members whose terms have ended, how we would like to move in that process.
Mhm.
But that's what's open here.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I just want to speak to my experience with this. I was, notified at the last minute that I was in fact eligible to reapply. I applied within 48 hours, and I got a confirmation email that said that my application had been received, and then I learned later that it had not been considered in this process. As far as the time piece, again, if I got an email saying something different, I would have had a conversation about like what I was going through at the time. I'm not going to disclose too much, but I was taking a mental health break from work for personal reasons. And thank you, Ruby, for dropping the mention of the Seattle Times. I'm going to show my face. I'm going to have a little bragging moment. I was on the front page for my youth homelessness work. Thank you. And yeah, I'm really dedicated to everything that we do on this board. I, again, like applied within 48 hours of learning that I was able to apply. And then once I learned that I was, or sorry, at the last meeting after I was given the new application, I also sent that in right away. I think I had a strong application, but I also don't think that anybody saw it. And I also want to make it very clear that I don't want to take opportunities away from anybody. I absolutely don't want anybody on this list to not be considered because I want to participate. I would love for a motion to just add a couple seats because again, I would really love to continue serving. I have been very consistent and very present for the last 4 years now, I think. I like it here. I'm very passionate about this and my job experience reflects that. And Patricia, I see your hand up.
Tricia?
Thank you, everyone. Hi. So Patricia, it's me. I just want to say thanks everybody for your inputs and for us getting some clarification. I'm jotting down. There's a lot going through my mind because this is a unique situation and as a new board member. So what I do have here, I want to start by saying, Lisa, thank you for sharing your heart. And I did for the first time hear you last week with the technical difficulties. I heard you. And I do know that just today, I opened up my email to catch up and there's like a string of emails. I don't know if everybody on the board and if we're all aware of what's going on, but there is a string of emails, back and forth conversation. I don't know if we're all included in that. And I know we're giving a little summary. And then I want to say that, so we have a lot of new board members. I understand that. And what I'm gleaming from this is that there was an application process for new board members. So the area that I want to advocate and my concern and get more clarity on and help advocate is for our existing board members. Generally on a hiring process, there is external and internal. And I'm hearing that we have some internal. So what does that look like when we have board members? Yeah, the process of that. I can say and speak to this. Few weeks back, I heard a snippet that the process was going to be starting and they were looking for some a work group to help with this nomination process. I had to take a PTO, so while I was on vacay, I wouldn't be here. And that's one of the reasons I wasn't on there. But I did hear one of my board members mentioned something Marvin, is it okay for me to say that I did hear Marvin mention something about he wasn't clear. He wanted to stay on, but he wasn't clear of the process. And I feel at that time, a couple of our board members like Jaja, there was some self-care, some things going on, and we all kind of was out of the loop, and it wasn't very much clarification, and then this process went on. So I just want to add that to the clarification, because I am in favor of Lisa and Marvin going forward. Thank you for letting me share and what that would look like going forward. If we have to have discussion and come back to it, I do feel strongly, I want to restate that the external new board members coming on, if that's the policy or the rule, the guidelines are in on that. As thank you, Ruby, for digging deeper into this and looking it up, but also it needs to be some concrete, explicit guidelines too if you're already a current board member. That should look a little different. Why should the board members, here is me speaking, my thought, have to go through current that have been on and have to go through such a rigorous process? And also, it should be something included in that. Thank you. In the guidelines to how what that process looks like. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. I see Tamara's hand. I just wanted to clarify that there would be nobody taken off of this list if we did add those additional nominations. Okay, Tamara, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say that I had a similar experience in that it wasn't very clear, because I had been told, no, you can't reapply, and then yes, you can, like on the day of the application being due. So I'm hoping that we can give each other grace and humility and recognize that we're all kind of new and we're all learning together. We're partners in this work, and that there is no like, it's just a misunderstanding. And the goal is to get back on track so that we can focus on the end goal. And so that would be my ask, is just for more grace. And I definitely support these two nominees because they have been invaluable to this work over the past 4 years. Also, I want to talk about like the charter and like looking at board members who don't show up regularly, who don't contribute at all. Like I want accountability for the board and the membership. So you better participate in this work. I don't want to like say, oh, I just don't want any excuses. I want us to get back on track. You know, I know processes are important and they're there for a reason, but I also think because this work is by and for lived experience, reprioritize and recenter that going forward. And that's just what I say.
Are there other hands?
Yeah, there is Martha Sansarosi.
Thank you. Martha?
Yes, thank you, Martha, she, her pronouns. Support clarification, I'll say for myself and maybe for others, of the state of our current board membership. Can we have confirmation of terms for the current members? And if we could ongoing, just have that included in our roster information, like Martha Sansarosi term ending. But if we could have that clarity even now, because I'm tracking, I think that our cap is 19 for the board. And I do want to understand how many of our current board members have terms that extend past.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion, Martha, about the term ending after our names. I think I really uplift that, and I hope to see that mirrored on the agenda. We can definitely get to that. But the other portion would just be the board member seats currently at last meeting in May, we had 14, including the Youth Action Board member, which is Lacey Morgan. And they weren't present, but that was including Galena. And when Galena resigned, then it went down to 13 board members. 5 were exiting. And so 9 nominees would then put us to 17. So there's still 2 empty board seats available. But since the resignation happened, I believe our charter does say that that resignation seat needs to be appointed and then voted on by the CoC membership. If that clears it up, I might be missing something, but.
So, Kelsey, any response for Martha?
Yep.
You don't.
Sorry. Something odd is happening with our sound. Am I echoing to all of you?
Yes.
We're in a different room, so our setup is a little different. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, I do have all the terms up that I can share. So these are all the board members. The highlighted ones are the terms that are ending. So there are currently 13 board members, 5 whose terms are ending. And we have on the list of recommendations, there are 9 people who are recommended. 20 people applied, and it was 9 people who met the threshold in the scoring process. So we included everyone who met the scoring threshold from both the application as well as the phone interview. And that is how the 9 individuals were determined to be recommended to be voted on by the CoC membership.
Thank you. And so my understanding, we have 8 continuing board member term, like in their current term. There's 9 that went through the planned process. And there has been discussion of possible addition of 2 that may or may not be able to happen by action in this call. Is that possible to add names via action in this call?
Hi, everyone. There I am. Hi. Oh, but I have to look here. Susan Tanner, or Susan Starrett, as you may also, I'm changing my last name. She, her pronouns with CSH. I'm a technical assistance provider. So I think some of the questions around process are partly for you all to decide today, whether or not you're going to continue on with the process that was voted on at the May 1st board meeting, or if you're going to not go by that process that you voted on at your May 1st board meeting, and you're going to change that process up. So looking back over the May 1st board meeting, the process that you all decided on and voted on was that applications were due on May the 3rd. That a selection committee would go through, right, the interview process, both the paper application and then the interview process, and come back to you at on the May 22nd date to review that with their recommendations, then to be approved at the CoC membership convening tomorrow. And so that May 3rd application deadline was set, and that's what you all decided on. So I think the question is, does that May 3rd deadline hold true? There were other applications that came in after May 3rd that were not reviewed by the selection committee because it came in after the deadline. So that means that those folks did not get to go through that review process either. And that's not including the 2 current board members, right, that you're talking about today. So I think that's a question for you guys to answer, and recognizing that it is tomorrow for the convening. So obviously some sort of decision needs to be made today. I think based on the numbers, it still leaves a few open seats. And there will be another convening later this year that you can go through this application process again for that CoC convening and for the additional seats to be filled. So that's, like a potential next step in terms of process as well. I see that there are some questions coming in around Robert's Rules of Order and nominations from the floor. My understanding of Robert's Rules of Order and nominations from the floor is that, one, that's not written into your charter, that you all will abide by Robert's Rules of Order for nominations. Instead, your process is determined by the board in the charter and then by the selection committee that you all voted on May the 1st. If you want to suspend your rules and go with Robert's rules, then the nominations from the floor should actually happen tomorrow, not here, because the CoC members are the ones who are voting on the new members, not you all. So that's part of what my response anyway about Robert's Rules of Order in terms of nominations from the floor.
May I ask a follow-up real quick before we get too far? The
Sure.
original question was, can the board nominate to reseat?
Oh, Marvin, you are on mute.
Susan?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry, you were muted in the middle.
oh my goodness. Oh, I want to start off with the question that leads off this discussion is, can the board nominate to reseat its present board members? Because the process you described was for new membership, not existing.
It wasn't, though. My understanding is that it was for any member who was going to be voted on
That
at the
wasn't
May
my question.
29th meeting. Current or
Can
new.
the board nominate or reseat folks for an additional term who are already on the board? That is the question.
My understanding from the way that the selection committee reviewed the governance charter is that if the members have already served a term, 2 terms, right? 2 terms?
1 term.
3 minus 1, then let me back up. It is for you all to decide. You are the board, recognizing that if you go against the charter and you go against your processes that you've put into place, that's your decision to make. Stand by it if you're going to make it. And
Oh, thank
in
you.
the future,
that answers my
if
question.
other people bring something to you that goes against your charter and goes against your process, then what are you standing on when you make decisions?
So what I take away is, yes, folks can. They haven't chosen to do so yet. 2, if they choose to do something, then we need to write the process that actually incorporates what the board has chosen to do.
And the CoC membership has to approve any changes to your charter.
Correct. And
you
that
can't just
usually
do that.
happens at the end of the year. And once again, been waiting to do this for a long time. I'm not working from a new position, and nor am I feel conflicted in this piece because I was one of the people that was nominated to retain their position because I didn't go through the process. My understanding is that old board members could not.
So
and
there was
would
an
not be
email.
extended the second term.
There was
So
an email
once
sent
it-
to
hold
all
on.
of you all on May the 1st. Letting you know that there was an email sent to the current board members whose term was ending, that if they wanted to apply, then the selection committee
Right.
would review that application just like anybody else who was applying.
Right, and I wasn't looking to be a new board member. I've already invested my time in this board, and if the board saw value in my work, they reseat me. If not, I'll be a member of the Continuum and move right along, but I don't want to disempower this board in any way. Thus, I want them to understand what they can and cannot do and what the additional work may be if they choose a path. So,
I would also like to
Open up the
highlight the
floor.
fact, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Can I highlight the fact that 48 hours is not the same amount of time as anybody else on that board application process had received, and that there should be an accommodation for that at least. 48 hours is clearly not, I mean, it took me 2 days to fill out the implementation board application when I tried to do, when I was, doing the letter of interest, etc. So we would do it tomorrow is what I was hearing, is if there is nominations from the floor. I also want to clarify that the board does have in the charter that we resort to Robert's rules if there's a disagreement within the board. So that's within the board members. And again, it also says in our charter that we can make a decision that does go against the recommendation of a work group. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruby. Well, to honor everybody's time, there is a recommendation for a slate that the selection committee put forward. And there's been discussion around the possible nomination of 1 or 2 other folks. What we need, what hopefully we can do right now is make a motion.
Yep.
Get a second, have discussion. If any more discussion is needed, and take a vote.
Can I make a motion?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, Ruby. I think my understanding of our charter and that we existing board members who have completed their term may be granted a 1-year extension, and that is a process that our charter allows for. I move.
That happened last year.
Yeah,
That
happened last year for each of the
Thank you.
terms that were expiring.
Kelsey, yes, I did an additional year on that piece.
Only.
And Lee, and yeah,
and Tamara and Christina.
yeah, we all started in 2020 officially.
And the charter doesn't explicitly say they can't reapply, but yeah, so.
Then they would have
Well,
to.
it doesn't give provisions for reseating.
There are
Board
no
members who
provisions.
aren't-
There are
So
no
this
provisions
is-
for reseating. You would have to reapply just as every other person applied for a board seat.
Yeah.
There is not a different process for current board members than for new applying board members. Everyone is asked to go through the same process per the charter.
Where?
It doesn't have a section for reseating present board members. Thus,
That was not
our
voted
decision
by
on
the
May
CoC
1st
membership. The
that-
CoC membership voted on the charter as it stands for all people seeking to be on the board to go through the same process.
And so they didn't, because they only received 48 hours notice. If I'm hearing that there was an email going out on May 1st and the deadline was May 3rd. If everybody else received about a month, as a public meeting, we did make the announcements via public meeting. We made the announcement. So it's understandable when we say we can't accept an application that, has known for a while, theoretically, right? But also we gotta admit that that's not equitable to only give board members 48 hours to do it when they've got a lot on their plate as it is. 48 hours isn't enough time for anybody to fill out an application. Well, maybe somebody, but not, okay, I'm sure somebody can fill it out, but you did.
That one of the applications that was denied heard about it on the May 1st meeting and applied late. The
And they
deadline was
were
May
told they couldn't.
3rd for everyone, no matter when they heard about the process.
But they weren't told they couldn't apply.
It was stated that the deadline to apply was May 3rd.
So
But
what I'm hearing is that without the charter stating specifically how to deal with existing members whose terms are coming to an end, the default process was the selection process in which we voted on. Okay, so once again, the floor is open to a motion.
I move that the slate of nominations from the selection committee be advanced, and I appreciate any support on the necessary wording for that motion.
Without them. Yeah, we're muted. Mute us, please.
Is there a second? Going once, going twice. All righty, motion fails for no second. Alex, are there any other motions?
Yeah, I make a motion to suspend the rules and allow for the board to make nominations to add to a list of recommendations that are to be voted on individually at the CoC convening tomorrow, May 29th, 2024, by the CoC, which is the Continuum of Care Washington 500 CoC membership, where they are in charge of deciding.
Would you care to add the names?
I personally, per Robert's rules, don't think I can make two name nominations, but I could say Marvin, or I nominate Marvin under the suspension of the rules.
Is there a second?
I second. Patricia.
All righty.
And I have a question. Since there's only one, can another board member nominate the other person? Lisa?
Absolutely.
So I would
I think we have to go through this one first. I think we have to go through this one first.
Okay, we'll go through this one first. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alex, could you do a roll call? I'm sorry, did I mute out?
All right, so the motion is to just
Clarify.
suspend.
I can clarify it for you. I make a motion to suspend the rules, whatever those rules might be, to nominate a returning board member under the ex officiato portion of Robert's rules, which would designate them as a educational and historical reference and crucial to this fight. Again, I make a motion to nominate Marvin into one of the potential seats voted on by the CoC Continuum of Care membership tomorrow at the convening on May 29th.
Did your motion also include accepting the folks that were presented by the selection committee?
It sure does. It's just adding adding one name, and that would mean 10 names altogether to the nomination and to be voted on individually at the CoC convening tomorrow, May 29th.
Did that help, Alex? Do we have it?
Hey, I was sorry. The email said 3 to 3:30. I had work at 3. I had an extension because of this important meeting. It's now almost 4. I really want to be here for this important vote. How do I make sure that I'm not,
Call for a vote.
Well, we're about to do the vote. Yeah.
It is 4 p.m. The meeting was supposed to stop at 3:30, and at 3:30 we were supposed to do our co-chair planning meeting. But
They called for the vote.
we're calling for the vote right now. Patricia, Sam,
Yes.
Tamara Bauman,
Aye.
Kenyatta Carol Hillman, Lise Castro,
I
Jaja Floyd, Marvin Futrell,
I recuse myself from this vote.
Antoinette Lambert,
Aye.
Dorsal Plants, Ruby Romero,
Aye.
Martha Sacerosi,
Nay.
Christina Sawicki. She have anything? Q&A. Christina Sawicki. Sherry Tillman. With 5 yeas, 1 nay,
One, nay, abstention.
one. One abstention.
Marvin abstained.
Well, it's hard to, an abstention shouldn't be counted. I recuse myself because the vote was on, I was named within the motion. I
5 yeas,
I will
1.
feel my duty
there-
as chair to pass, but I recuse myself.
Is there anything in the chat or the Q&A?
So 6 yeas, 1 nay. Motion's passed.
Right.
I see Christina's in
Yeah, we got
Q&A
it.
right now.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Can you guys hear me?
7 votes.
I can hear you.
Christina has her vote in Q&A.
Okay.
7 votes.
You should have 7 ayes.
There were 6 ayes and 1 nay.
Martha didn't vote.
No, Martha voted no.
No.
Sorry.
So what is the?
Is that including Christina's vote?
Yes.
There's not
6.
quorum.
The motion does not pass. Quorum is
Not met.
not met.
If 13 is the number of board members, what is quorum then?
7.
We no longer have quorum on the call.
Hmm.
I believe that's what was being
Well,
said.
we have 7. We have Christina, Tamara, Lise, Marvin, Antoinette, Patricia, myself.
Marvin cannot recuse himself from the vote.
Oh, I see. Okay. Does that not? I wonder if that still affects quorum though.
Does, you only have 6 and you need 7.
Of voting members, I thought we needed 60% of voting members and he's not voting, he's recused.
Right, so then
We
you
have
would need
quorum.
8. You would need 8 if it was 60%.
So 60% of voting members, and recusing yourself is not a voting member at that moment.
You would still need 8.
We need 7 for quorum.
It's not just about who's present and voting, it's about the entire board.
Right.
I think it says, okay, I think it says that the board can have, when there's somebody recusing it, as long as we have quorum in the meeting and we're voting on something, it's 60% of voting members in Robert's rules.
Is that voting members present or voting members on the board?
Voting
as well?
members present, voting members present.
Thank you for the clarification. But it sounds like it meets that.
Of those present.
Hi, this is Tamara. I suggest that we take a series of board meetings in the future, if I'm on or not, to go over in detail the charter and the ILA and all the governance documents, because it's been a whole mess. Not just at the COC level. And I do plan on making public comment at the implementation board meeting later this afternoon. But I think if we can set aside time to really review those documents so that we can all speak knowledgeably about what our roles are, what our purpose is, that would be fantastic. Also, I think if tomorrow, like, because the deadline is so fast, like, can both Marvin and Lee's like make a public application, like appeal to the public saying, this is why I want to run, this is what I want to do. Is that an option, or does it have to be a formal paper application to get the nomination?
We can nominate from the floor.
Okay.
As I wanted to do is nominate Lisa now to move forward in this process, but I don't know, we're out of time. And another suggestion, since we have other time, can we nominate them to sit in for interim until we can work this stuff out? So suggestions, but I would like to bring forth Lisa at this time also as the second one. And I think Antoinette in the chat seconded.
There's currently not quorum, so motions cannot be made for voting.
1, 2, 3,
There are only 6 members
4,
present.
5, 6, 7, Christina. And 13 divided by 2 is 6.5, right? So how does that work?
Please. Internet.
Yeah.
7.
But we had quorum when Galena was on the board at 8, correct? We didn't need 9. So if Galena left, would that not bring us down to 7 as quorum?
It sounded like we had quorum to have. the
Quorum is 7,
conversation,
yeah.
Not, yeah, to make votes of this caliber. Is there anything else that is going to be going on right now? I will admit, I'm pretty unhappy right now. I took time off work to have this conversation. I wish
Thank you.
that I had known, yeah. And now, yeah, I do not feel like my time is being respected. I know that this was an important conversation, an important vote. I wish that the foresight was had at the beginning of the meeting to say that we could not have this vote. And again, yeah, it was posted as 3 to 3:30. It's been past that. And then I was told that it was 3 to 3:50, and we've also passed that.
We've now passed that, yes.
Happen. Yeah. My job is waiting on me. Do we
Sorry,
have people to do anything at this point?
Well, did you capture the original motion? The discussion that followed that was, I think it met the 60% barrier. So that's what we have to go to work with tomorrow, folks.
Great, thank you.
We'll all be there tomorrow, so at least we know that.
Yep. We'll see everybody. Thank you for joining us today. It was a long conversation. There's a lot of work to do to move forward. I offer that we always welcome CHS to be part of our work here. Lead agency always needs the assistant, but sometimes the board does also. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks all for your support.
That was so